So hi guys, so in this video we are going to be dealing with instantiating all the invaders that we need for the game. So like I said before, I'm not a fan of duplicating sprites when they have the same behavior because it leads to a lot of problems with keeping the code in sync between all the sprites that we have. And in this case it would be like almost completely impossible to duplicate the sprites because we need 55 invaders, and imagine that we need to import all the invaders here. We'll have like 55 invaders on this section. It's like really cumbersome to work with. So what we'll be doing is using the original sprite and duplicating that sprite to create all the other invaders that we need. And now let's see how we are going to do that. So the first thing that we are going to do is to position the original sprite on the position of the first invader. And we'll start creating all these invaders from the bottom left corner. So we need to position our original sprite on the position of this invader right here. And so let's see, this invader right here is at 90 pixels from the left and 173 from the bottom. So that basically positions the invader at, we have 180, so it's going to be on -7 on the Y position, and on the X position is going to be, you have 240, the position on the edge, so -20 is going to be -150. So the first thing that we are going to do is to position this invader on that position. So -150 and -7. And this is the position of the first invader. Now we are going to work from here and create all the clones that we need to create all the other invaders for the game. And we know that we have 5 rows of 11 invaders on each row. So 5 rows by 11 columns. And so we are going to use the clone sprite that we already used before, but we have here, so on the control section, we have the create clone of myself. That's what we need. And let's add a new green flag. So we're going to do this when we start. And now we need to use this create clone and repeat this create clone 11 times by 5 times. So we are going to repeat the create clone 11 times, so we can create one row of invaders. We're going to be creating 11 invaders, and then we are going to repeat that creation of 11 invaders 5 times, so we can create the 5 rows. And this introduces a new block. So far we have seen a loop. One of the loops that we've seen is the forever block that runs forever. But we have another block that allows us to run a certain amount of times, which is the repeat block. And we can specify how many times we want to repeat this block. So, but not here, we'll put it here. So what we want to do is repeat the create clone of myself 11 times. And that we'll be using to create one row of invaders. And then we are going to add a new repeat block, and we are going to repeat this 5 times. And that will create the 5 rows. In the end, we'll have the 55 invaders. So right now, if I run this, it actually created the 55 invaders, but they are all on the same position. So they are all created exactly on the position of the original one. So here we have, if I keep dragging, I'll probably have like the 55 invaders all on this position. So now that we have the 55 invaders, we need a way to position the invaders in the correct positions. And now let's see how we can do it. So we know that this is the original position of the invaders. And in this layout that I've prepared, I separated the invaders 8 pixels from one another. So each invader is at 8 pixels from the other one. And we also know that each invader has a 20 by 20 size. So that makes that each invader is at 28 pixels from the other one. Because this invader right here is at 28 pixels from this one. Why? Because we know that the position of the sprite on Scratch is in the center of the sprite. So this is 20 by 20. It means that from the center to the bottom of this one is 10 plus 8 plus 10 to the center of the second one. So each invader is positioned at 28 pixels from one another. And another thing that we also can see from here is that this invader is positioned at 28 pixels from the original position. This invader is positioned at 28 pixels times 2 from the original position, and so on. This is 28 pixels times 3, times 4, times 5, until we reach the end of the row. And we can also see that the first invader will be at 28 pixels times 0 from the original position, because it's exactly at the same as the original sprite that we have. So we can use something to create this mass that which is giving a column number to each one of the columns that we are creating. So if we start that this column is column number 0, we put here, what happened? Wait, 0, yeah. So this column right here is going to be column number 0. And I'm going to explain in a while why it's 0. This is going to be column number 1, column number 2, and the rest would just continue until column number 10. Because we start at 0, we have 11 columns, so if we start at 0, the last one will be 10. And then we can use this column number to position the invaders on the x axis. Why? Because we know that the first invader is the position of the first invader, the x position, is equal to the original position plus 28 times the column number, which is 0, which makes the invader stay exactly in the same position. The second invader is x position is equal to the original position plus 28 times 1, which is 28, so it stays 28 units apart. And this one is 28 times 2, so it stays 28 units times 2 apart from the original position, and so on and so on. So now, how do we get these column numbers? We need to create a variable. So we need to create a variable that will say in what column number we are at when we are creating the invaders, and we will be incrementing the column number as we repeat creating each one of these invaders. And then we'll use that number to position the invaders appropriately. So first thing that we are going to do is to create the variable. To create a variable, we go to the sections variables and we make a variable. In this case, it's a variable for this sprite only. We won't be using this variable anywhere else, so we can just create the variable for this sprite. And let's call it column count. Not count, sorry. Count doesn't make sense because we are not counting since the first one is 0. So let's call it column index. Index makes more sense. So this is going to be a column index. We have this variable, column index. Let's just hide the variable from here. We don't need it. And now what we are going to do is when we start creating the invaders at the beginning, not creating the invaders, but when we start, we set the column index always to 0, just to reset the column, because at the end of the game it will be with a different value. So we already know that we always need to reset the values to the original ones. And now what we are going to do is increment the column index by 1 after we create each one of the invaders. So the column starts at 0. We create the first one. So here the column is 0 when we create this one. We create this one and the column turns 1, becomes 1. Then we create the other invader and the column increments to 2, and so on and so on. So we change the column index by 1. And now what we need to do is to take this column index and change the x position of the invader according to the column index. And now, since we are dealing with clones, we cannot use anymore the when green flag is clicked. We need to use, not here, but here on the control section, when I start as a clone. And this is where we are going to position the invader using the column index. So how we are going to do it is change the position of the invader using blocks from the motion category, and we have the where is it? Go to. Okay, go to. We already know that. Why is it minus 88? Because I was dragging. Oh, sorry. We need to put it back. 150 and minus 7. Okay, and let's do something before I forget. That is to go to 150 minus 7. So this way we can guarantee that the first invader, the original one, is always at the correct position. And now, so go to x, the y we won't change. Let's just put this minus 7, which is the same as the original one. And now we are going to use the column index to change the x position. And the way to do it is basically we know that each invader is at 28 pixels apart, and we are going to change the x position by 28 28 pixels times the column index. So in the operators category, we have the multiplication block that we can use here. And then we are just using the x position. The x position of the sprite, the clone in this case. And we are going to, sorry, not the x position. I'll make some mistake here. Go to, no, sorry. First of all, we don't need this go to. We're going to change x by, yes, we're going to, sorry. Now I just made, I was doing some mistake. No, we are not using the go to. We could use it, but we're going to change x so far. So change x by, and we are going to change x by the column index times 28. So what this will do is that on the first clone, since the column index is 0, it's going to change x by 0 times 28, which is nothing. So the first clone will be exactly on the same position where it started. Now, the second clone, the column index will already be 1. So we're going to change x by 1 times 28. So it's going to be 28 units apart from the first one. And then we continue. So the other invader, column index is 2. 2 times 28 is going to be 28 units apart from the second invader, and 28 times 2 from the original position. And it continues until the end of the column. So let's see. And now it's okay. We still have a problem though, because you can see that we have the 11 invaders are correct, but then it just continues. And why is that? Because we are not, first of all, we are not changing the y position. So we are just creating one row of invaders, and we are also not resetting the column index when we finish the row. So the column index will just continue until we have all the invaders created. Actually, we can see it. If we just show here, you see that the column index reached 55. So it just continue increasing the column index and not creating a single row. It just continue increasing the column index. So we have all the 55 invaders right now, just all one after the other until reaching the end of the 55. So what we need to do is that after we create one row, of 11 invaders, we need to reset the column index to 0. So in a way that when we reach the 11 invaders, the other one will start again from the beginning, so that we can have a new row. And the way to do it is set column index to 0 after the repeat 11 block, because this is the end of one line, and then we are going to start another row from the beginning. So if we start again, now we have the 11 invaders, which are in the correct position. And what's happening right now is that we have the 55 invaders, but they are all on one top of one another on this same row. So now what we need to do is to use the same method to increase the y position so that we can have each row on the correct position. So I'm just gonna hide this. So basically we are going to create a new variable called row index for this sprite only, don't forget this. and we'll do exactly the same. So first thing, I'm not the duplicate, because when we duplicate, it just brings the whole set of blocks with it. So I'm just gonna set the column index to row index to 0. Then here I can duplicate. So we are going to change the row index by 1. And we are not going to reset the row index at the end of the sorry, not here. We are not going to increment the row index inside when we are repeating the columns. We are going to change the row index when we are repeating the rows, which is inside the repeat 5 and not the repeat 11. And then we are going to change not x, but the change y. I duplicated this, but we are going to change y by not the column index. You can right click on a variable to choose another one. Instead of like taking this one and getting the other one, you can just right click and you have here the other variables that you can change it to. And so we're going to change x by column index times 28 and change y by row index times 28. And so let's see. And now we have the 55 invaders all positioned in place. Yeah, and I guess this is it. I don't know if it seems that the invaders are closer to this side than this one. Not totally sure, but yeah. I just hide that. Yeah, it seems that maybe I made a mistake about the position. It's not 150, yeah, 150. Sorry, I'm just trying to understand because they seem to be a little bit to the right. Yeah, it's 90 from the left side. Minus 150, yeah. Okay, yes, let's just go with it. Okay, or maybe I can just check here. Oh, minus 180. Why is it minus 180? And minus 3. Okay. We just go with it. Yeah, I think it's okay. Either way. So I'm just gonna stop here and it's instantiating everything. Yeah. Okay. Oh, another thing that we need to do before finishing this up is hiding the original invader, because you see that now when we instantiate the invaders, we have one invader that is actually playing the animation, which is the original one. And the original one, we won't be using it, so we'll only be using clones. So one thing we need to do is to hide the original invader. And when we start as a clone, we are going to show, we are going to show the clone. So we're going to position it on the right position, and then we are going to show the clone. So right now, if we do this, oh, I forgot to hide again. We just need to hide it also at the beginning, so it hides either way. Ah, sorry, because we have the show here. Yeah, I forgot we had the show here. Now we need to change this because we don't need to hide it here anymore because it's already hidden here. Because since we had like the when green flag clicked, we are applying these two set of blocks only to the original invader. And this is an important distinction to make, because when green flag click, it's used for the original sprite. So for this sprite that we have right here and the one that we are using as a template to create all the other ones. When we want to apply stuff to the clones, we always need to use when I start as a clone. So we are going to replace this, that's being applied to the original sprite, which we don't want. We are going to replace it by when I start as a clone. And when I start as a clone here as well. So we can remove these two. So when we click, so this is important to an important distinction to or something to be aware about it. When the green flag is clicked, it's going to apply all this to the original invader, and the only thing that we are doing with the original one is positioning the invader in the correct position, setting the column and the row index, and repeating to create all the clones, and that's it. And then we are going to use these other three blocks of groups of blocks to create or start running the invader animations, to detect the the collision with the player laser, and to position the invaders in the correct position. So now we have the physical invaders, and all of them have animation, and we can kill them. We also saw that the first shot went just right through all the invaders. And this is the other bug that we still have, that you can see that we are destroying the invaders, but the laser shot is not appearing. I haven't still figured it out why. So if you are following this video and you know why, please just tell me. And the other thing that I'm curious about, this shouldn't happen as well. Okay, so maybe what we need to do here, I think this has something to do with how the collisions are processed and detected. What I think this is doing is that, remember when I told you that when we hide the invader, when the invader detects the collision with the laser shot and we hide it immediately, that the laser would just continue going up because it didn't detect the collision. I think it has something to do with it. And also because the sprite of the explosion might have something to do with it. Let me just show you why. Because you cannot see the sprite here. Let me see if you can see it here. I believe that if we shoot the invader right in the middle, the laser shot just passes through this empty space right here, because the collisions in Sprite, they are made exactly with the pixels that are painted or not. So it's not the collision of the entire sprite. So we detect the collision is not with the 20 by 20 sprite that we have, but the laser shot actually detects or touches one of these painted areas right here. So what I'm thinking now that I remember this, what I'm thinking is happening right now is that the laser shot is just passing through the middle of the explosion sprite. So the invader detects the collision, it changes to the explosion image, but then since we are shooting exactly in the middle, the laser cannot detect anything and just passes through the explosion. I'm not entirely sure, to be honest, but I think it might be related to this. So let me just try it again, just to see. So, and I forgot to hide the original invader. You can see that the animation here is strange. So if this is more in the middle. Yeah, the problem now is that I don't know if I can shoot right in the middle. It's really hard. But almost for sure that the problem is that. So we can either okay, I'm going to check if the problem is exactly that. And if it's that, we have probably two ways to solve this. One way is to just change the sprite. So the explosion probably have like just a pixel in the middle, and that will just stop happening. And if you can't do it, let's suppose that you are working on some other project where you can't just edit the sprite because you want to, maybe something that we should do is to wait. When we detect a collision, just add a wait, a really small wait seconds, like 0.01, so that the collision is still detected on that sprite before changing it. I'll try with it and just experiment with it, and we'll see. So right now, about the goal of this video, which was instantiating the invaders, I think we are done. Yeah, all good. So I'll see you on the next video.